Hi, I'm Peter Singer, and I'm very happy to have the chance to speak to you and to acknowledge receipt of the Philosophy Now Award for 2016, and to thank everyone involved with that, especially Rick Lewis as editor of Philosophy Now magazine, for bestowing this award on me. I'm really pleased to be a contributor to the fight against stupidity, and I'm happy that my work has played some role, I hope, in raising the level of discussion and debate about a number of really important issues that we face today. Among the issues that I've worked on are questions like what should people like us who are comfortably off living in an affluent country, what should we be doing about the fact that there are hundreds of millions of people, used to be more than 1 billion, but now on the latest figures it's around the 700 to 800 million people living in extreme poverty. And whereas we are fortunate enough to have safe drinking water, schools for our children, healthcare, and of course enough to eat, that more or less goes without question for us, people in extreme poverty don't have those things, don't have the security that they'll be able to retain them. So this is both a question of caring about them, but also a question of thinking about the best ways in which we can help them, and knowing that we can. And I'm delighted that the effective altruism movement is now focusing on that question of how can we know what is the most effective way to help people in extreme poverty, and to find other really important causes that we can work towards. So that's one thing that I hope I've contributed to. I've also contributed, I believe, to stimulating people to think about what are our moral obligations towards animals, what is their moral status, are we justified in thinking that because they're not members of our species, therefore their interests don't count, or their interests don't count as much as the similar interests of beings who are members of our species? I think not. I think that's a prejudice, just like racism and sexism are a prejudice, to discount the interests of a being simply because that being is not a member of our species. And then I've done work in bioethics, which perhaps you could say that those other two areas I've mentioned are problems of lack of concern for others. But I think in bioethics we maybe find more simple stupidity, or at least clinging to ideas which should now be seen as relics of a past age that don't really apply, often derived from religious beliefs that we have no justification for maintaining. So, for example, the opposition to allowing physicians to help patients to end their lives on the request of those patients, and where the patients are competent adults, terminally or incurably ill, there seems to me to be no real basis for that opposition now. There is the belief in the idea that it's always wrong to take an innocent human life. Perhaps that plays a role. There have in the past been some basis for fears of a slippery slope, but now that we have many jurisdictions that have practiced physician assistance in dying or voluntary euthanasia for more than a decade, some cases significantly longer than that, I think we can see that the risk of a slippery slope was hugely exaggerated, and I don't see any signs of any dangerous slippery slopes in any of these cases. There have been some broadening of the definition of when somebody should be able to receive assistance in dying, but not in the sense that people talked about before, when they said that this would lead to the state getting rid of people who were politically undesirable or not productive, or racial minorities. There's been absolutely no evidence of anything like that happening. So, if in these areas I've contributed to stimulating people to think better, and then I'm happy about that. That is, I think, what the role of philosophy ought to be, to help people to clarify their thoughts, to think more clearly, and in general to raise the level of debate in society at large. So thanks again for the award. I'm delighted to accept it. Goodbye.